Hey, yo, what's up, y'all? This is your boy, uh, Mr. Black Magic. I am actually doing a video response to 4 Degrees of Black. Um, they were talking about something that's pretty controversial. They were talking about basically abortion and like how do you feel about it as black men because that's how they look at certain subjects. So I guess I wanted to weigh in on it. And for my first YouTube video, I thought it would be interesting that I would actually weigh in on such a controversial issue because that's generally what I do politically. I weigh in on things. I weigh in on things that a lot of people don't want to talk about. So in terms of abortion, like I think I have my own particular story. Um, in terms of abortion, I am pro-choice. I believe in a woman's right to choose. But I also believe that in terms of abortion, there are people who I feel like they put themselves in situations where it's not a damn, how do I say this? It's not a situation of where like you made a mistake. There are some people out there that just, they sit there knowing full well what the consequences of their actions may be of having unprotected sex, and then, all of a sudden they become pregnant, and then, abortion is just like going to the store to them and just sitting there like, oh, well, fuck it, I could just dump the baby, and that's what it is. And I don't agree with that. In terms of those kinds of abortions, like that's when I just kind of like draw the line. Like, hun, you basically put yourself in that predicament, and you need to accept the consequences of your actions. I believe in life, for every action, there is a reaction and therefore a recourse. Um, in terms of the situation that I found myself in some years ago, around 2000, end of 2003, a girlfriend that I was with at the time, we were having unprotected sex, and she came up pregnant. Um, what ended up happening, when she told me, it was funny because I, went over her house with her. She was being real quiet over the phone. Went over her house, da da da, and she's sitting in the dark, and I'm sitting there, decided to play video games or whatever. And then, she sat there and bam, right in front of me. I'm like, oh. So, we talked about it together, and she was on something like, what do you want to do, just like because I think your boy Pat and Invincible and Watu kind of came up with, they were just like, it should be a conversation that y'all should be able to have. Mostly Invincible said it should be a conversation that y'all should have together, and I'm kind of with Watu on that, where it's just like it's kind of a decision that both parties should make. But I think in terms of abortion, the woman still has more of a say than the man does. If the woman wants to have it and the man doesn't, then guess what? You're stuck with child support and all this other stuff for years and years to come. If the man wants to have it and the woman doesn't, then guess what? You're SOL. In our particular situation, we talked about, discussed it. She didn't really say whether she wanted to have it or not, and I kind of wanted to have it, but like I was a senior in college, and I had no job prospects at the time, this and that, third, and more so for economic reasons. Like I just kind of, I didn't say I didn't want to have it, but I kind of left it up to her. But I also sat there and said, like, baby, if you want to have it, then I stand behind it. I come from a single parent household, lived with my mom basically all my life. It was just like, if you want to have it, I'll do what I'm have to do to make sure I provide for my child. That was, basically my concern. But I also expressed to her that, financially, I don't see it, which is, it's kind of bad when you look at abortion in terms of finances, but you really have to, especially, I mean, in that day and age, you had to look at it. And now in this day and age, you definitely have to look at it. And I just didn't see it. The other issue that I had was that the dynamics of her family was such that they were kind of looking at me as the, she didn't go to college and all this other stuff. I was in college, about to graduate, so they kind of looked at me as the cash cow. So me and her kind of got into it on terms of that because if I felt like her family was sitting there planning on my finances, like, oh, this could be our girl, and he's gonna be fine, and he's gonna provide for you. And she already had a kid, by the way, that she had when she was like 16 to 17 by some other dude. So a lot of those kind of factors kind of played into the whole decision. But again, I left it up to her, I guess, in the end, because again, I believe in a woman's right to choose, and I believe, she was the hoeing around type. So it wasn't a situation where I felt like, she was just jumping around this and that and the third. And it was, a piece of love there. She ended up having an abortion. Um, as I explained to another, a fellow YouTuber, um, a couple of years ago, I kind of felt bad about it. I wish I had made a different decision, maybe pressed her in the direction of having a kid, because now here it is, I find myself, wanting or wishing that I would have, at this point, like, he or she, the child, would have been about 6 years old. And I wish that at the time I would have sat there and been like, yeah, we should really have this kid, and things would have worked out, especially given my family structure. Like, my mom would have been very supportive, you know, grandparents and all that. I would have had all the support in the world. It would have made it harder, honestly, because it's my child and hers as well. But I think at the time, being young or whatever, it's just something I didn't think about. So going on again with this whole idea of abortion, again, like I said, I believe that it's the woman's right to choose. At the same time, I think that, it takes two to tango. Both of you have to lay down to conceive this child. And I don't agree with Watu, like, 2 seconds of pumping and she gets that 9 months. Because realistically, if you really are in it with that woman, like in terms of like a relationship, we were actually in a relationship. So it wouldn't have been her going through, the morning sickness and everything alone, da da da. I would have been there for her. As a man, it kind of goes back to how men culturally, especially in the African American community, how we as men look towards raising our children. And I think that given the way that I grew up in a single family household, I think that I would have been the one to really stand by her and really have been with her all the way throughout, whatever the trimesters had been. Speaking of trimesters, I also don't believe in late term abortions. Like I said, I think that, certain women, you can sit there and give leeway to like women that have been raped or, whatever other factions. But like when you get to like certain women who just engage in risky behavior and use abortion as just some kind of simple medical procedure that they just, they don't care about, that's when I kind of sit there and be like, you know what, that child, given those circumstances, might actually be better off. I wouldn't say in foster care, but there are a lot of like willing adults out there that can't have children, that would literally take that child in, raise them as their own, and they would have a wonderful, fruitful life. Um, However, not ideal as, being with their biological parent, but as opposed to like this woman having abortion after abortion after abortion after abortion. And my political side also, I don't, given, all this fervor about the this healthcare bill, to which I don't agree with, I don't want tax dollars used for abortions. I don't want it. Period. I'll get into that later. Of course, my political views will end up coming out at some point. But I think for the most part, I've spoken enough on this topic. This is my first video. It's gonna be for the most part kind of simple and plain. I'm, brand new to the scene, but that's my response to 4 Degrees of Black's abortion topic. Peace and love from Mr. Black Magic. Later.